New tonight, a teenager in Independence is in the hospital in critical condition after police shocked him with a taser earlier today. The teen's name is Bryce Masters, and he's apparently well known to law enforcement, but not because he's a criminal. It's because his father is a Kansas City police officer. KCTV5's Nathan Vickers is on the night team tonight. He spoke to witnesses about what happened, and Nathan, exactly what was it they saw?
Jonathan, this all started as a routine traffic stop, but then things turned ugly when the teenage boy didn't comply with an officer's request. The officer tased him, and now that teen is in the hospital. And all of this happened in front of that boy's best friend. Curtis Martes stepped outside to welcome his friend Bryce to his house, only to find that an Independence cop had pulled his friend over.
Cop went up to the passenger window and was like, hey, roll down the window.
Martes says Bryce couldn't roll it down
because he doesn't have the cable that allows the electric window to work.
But Independence police say the 17-year-old boy had an outstanding traffic violation and refused to cooperate with the officer.
I believe he did crack the window to the point where the officer could see, but he couldn't get him to roll it down any further. He was just being completely uncooperative with the officer.
That's when things got rough.
And he tased him, and he had him by his arms, and he just threw him on the ground. And it busted Bryce's whole face up right here.
Michelle Baker saw the scuffle from her house, too.
I went down there and said, you're really going to do this to a kid? You know, I mean, you could tell he's a kid, and he's a little kid, so he couldn't have hurt the cop for sure.
Martes says it took the officer several minutes to realize Bryce was unconscious and needed an ambulance.
I think, man, it's messed up. I just watched my best friend die and come back to life, and now he's in critical condition. You know what I'm saying? I got to go up to the hospital and help his family stay strong and just hopefully he pulls through.
We checked in with that boy's friend just a few moments ago. At last check, he still is in the hospital. He's still in critical condition. Reporting live for the night team in Independence, Missouri, Nathan Vickers.
The fate of a teenager is still unclear a day after he was stunned by a police taser. In the meantime, questions are mounting over why this happened. New at noon, friends say the teenager is still in a medically induced coma because of injuries to his brain. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition after yesterday's run-in with a police officer. KCTV5's Emily Rittman talked to friends who went to the hospital to see him. Emily?
Those friends tell us that it happened right here in this Independence neighborhood, and that they saw the teenager lying on the ground right here in this neighborhood. And they tell us that they've gone to the hospital to see him, and they've checked on Bryce Masters, and they say that doctors are trying to cool his body to reduce some of the swelling to his brain, and they're trying to do that. They say that they're not certain if that swelling to his brain was caused by when his head hit the concrete here or because he lost oxygen for a long period of time. They tell us that he does look in very bad shape and has a lot of tubes and is currently in a medically induced coma. And friends say that this all started right here in this neighborhood, and we want to give you a look at some video that a witness took. The witness took this cell phone video, and that witness tells us that she believes that the officer used too much force when the officer tried to pull over a car that Bryce was in around 3:30 yesterday afternoon in Independence, Missouri. Police say the police officer did what he had to do to protect himself because the teen refused to cooperate and struggled with the officer. The officer pulled over the car because the owner had an outstanding traffic warrant. Witnesses and police described a very different scene. We spoke to one of Bryce's classmates and co-workers who says witnesses and friends want an investigation into how this incident was handled.
Doesn't make sense. He didn't deserve it, and I know he didn't do anything to deserve that because his father's a cop and he knows better. Not like he knows not to do stuff like that.
And we're told that the teenager's father does work for the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. And we are told that this all began because the officer told the teenager to roll down his window and didn't. Friends, though, tell us that the teenager's window was broken and would, in fact, not roll down. We have called police to check in and find out what's next for this investigation, and we are still waiting to hear back. So stay with us for updates. Back to you.
A teenager critically hurt after he was tased by an Independence police officer. Now, the FBI is investigating what happened. That's just one of several big developments in this story today. This is cell phone video that one witness took of the scene on Sunday. An attorney for the teen's family says because of discrepancies between witnesses and police, it asked the Department of Justice to investigate. And today, the FBI said it would look into what happened. Meanwhile, Independence police say they too are investigating, but believe the officer followed department policy on using his taser. And we go now to KCTV5's Nathan Vickers, who's live with more on these latest developments. Nathan?
Brad, first an update on Bryce. Right now he's clinging to life. He's in a coma. He has a brain injury, and his family is praying with him right now. They're hoping for a quick and speedy recovery. Per their request, the FBI is investigating the incidents from the weekend, and so is the Independence Police Department.
He wouldn't roll the window down.
A bystander captured video of Officer Tim Runnels examining an unconscious 17-year-old boy. That young man was Bryce Masters, pictured here with his mother.
Our department's thoughts and prayers are with Bryce and his family for a complete recovery.
Major Paul Thurman says Runnels stopped Masters because his car's license plates returned an outstanding traffic violation. Thurman says the warrant was for a woman, not for Bryce.
The windows on the vehicle were extremely dark, and you could not see inside it to see which occupants were in there.
Police say Masters refused to roll his window down. In the scuffle that followed, Runnels tased Masters, pulled him out of the car, and threw him to the ground. Thurman wouldn't discuss IPD policy regarding tasers.
Our policy is quite lengthy at this particular point,
But says in some circumstances, officers are allowed to use them on a teenager.
I can tell you anybody that is physically resistive, that is of 17 years of age, that fits within our policy.
The family hired an attorney and issued a statement. They say that because of inconsistencies between public statements made by the Independence Police Department and information made available to the family has asked the United States Department of Justice to conduct its own investigation into these tragic events. The family also asks that their privacy be respected in allowing them to focus on Bryce's needs and his recovery. Bryce Masters is 17 years old. He just started his senior year at Truman High School here in Independence. Reporting live from Independence, Missouri, Nathan Vickers, KCTV5 News.
When are officers supposed to use a taser on the street? We asked KCTV5 investigative reporter Eric Shalou to dig into the issue of taser use in tonight's special assignment. Eric?
Brad, Independence police say the use of a taser on the teen was within their policy, but they've yet to release to KCTV5 after numerous requests a copy of their taser policy. We checked other agencies and found taser use is different department by department.
Then again, when you're out on the streets making those split-second decisions, I think it's sometimes easy to go to the taser. If that's appropriate or not, it's a different story.
Ken Belusic is chair of the Criminal Justice Department at Rutgers University. He says tasers have changed how policing is taught around the country.
With policing, there's this level or continuum of force that they're taught, where you start off with verbal commands and you work your way up to deadly force. In between there, we have the tasers.
KCTV5 discovered there's no state oversight nor rules in Missouri when it comes to taser policies. It's left up to each department to decide. The Johnson County, Kansas Sheriff's Office sent us their policy. Part of it reads, deputies can only deploy a taser when it is reasonably necessary to control subjects that are displaying combative, physically aggressive behavior or actively attempting to prevent an officer's control. The taser should not be used on passive resistive subjects. KC police guidelines for non-deadly force, including tasers, say they can be used to effect an arrest, protect the officer or others from physical harm, restrain or subdue a resistant person, or bring an unlawful situation under control. A National Institute of Justice study found some departments take it further by even putting age restrictions on the person it can be used on. Researcher Dr. Jeffrey Albert says tasers are a wonderful tool for law enforcement if used properly to remove a threat.
And I hear the argument all the time, well, we had no option, this is all we could do. But it makes me think, well, what did they do before a taser?
According to that U.S. DOJ-funded research, the controlled electronic devices, or tasers, are not risk-free, but they found a majority of the people in their study suffered no injuries or had mild injuries. Again, we're going to keep digging and try to get a copy of that Independence Police Department taser policy for you. I'm Eric Shalou, KCTV5 News. Brad?